Namaste. In today's video, we will discuss a story on King Shikhidwaja and Queen Chudala. This story is from YogaVasistha. Now, YogaVasistha Maharamana has many profound stories. This is one of such story. In this story, we have this King Shikhidwaja who feels a bit lost while he's performing his duty, which I am sure every one of us would feel at some point, not understanding our real self or being not connected and grounded. Now, Shikhidwaja also felt the same. Now, he has Queen Chudala. Now, she is not brought up in any specific school of thought. She's an easygoing, pure soul. Now, she was able to ground herself and she was able to understand in her stillness who she was. But the same was not possible with Shikhidwaja because he had his strings attached. He was brought up in a specific school of thought and he had his upbringing which gave him certain guidelines and rituals and things like that to resolve his problems. Now, Chudala was not like that. She was a free thinking, pure soul. Chudala, in her stillness, understood herself. She was able to connect to her real self in her stillness, in her journey back to herself. And she was happy. And she tried to convey this to Shikhidwaja. But in his state of mind, he was not able to understand what she was trying to tell. Now, Shikhidwaja, what he did next was like what anybody who is brought up in a specific school of thought would do. He followed his rituals and he followed his practices. I'm not saying that is wrong or right. But until your mind is clear and with it, it's not going to work. And Shikhidwaja's mind was not at all clear. It was not still. It was having all kinds of vibrations. Now he went to a journey trying to discover who he was, throwing away all his roles and responsibilities and duties. But his queen was aware about that and she kept monitoring him and she found out that he is reaching nowhere. Now she thought to help him and she went in a disguise, as in the story they say that she took a different form and went, but I'm not going to go in details of that. The crux of the point is she tried to help her husband in by playing a different role, something like that of a teacher who Shikhidwaja would respect. She elevated herself to that point and then she connected with her husband and then she was able to convey the key principle that your mind, which is behind all these actions, it needs to drop these strings and it needs to still for you to really look at things and understand, and for you to really go back to yourself. Your mind needs to be still and clear like a pure water in which you can see what is at the bottom. In the same way, she was able to make Shikhidwaja understand and uplift him to a point where he understood. By giving away things from the mind, he was able to connect. He tried a lot of things before, like throwing away everything. But everything was still there in the mind. And until you drop things from the mind, it is going to disturb you day in, day out and stop you from reaching the goal. Now, thanks to Chudala, Shikhidwaja was able to realize that. Now, if you look at the present world, you see that people have not just one self, they have a digital self now. Already you had one self to worry about, now you have digital self also to worry about. The worrying is compounding, right? This is where this story is very important. Every day, I would say we should try to ground ourselves, to go back, take a journey to our own self daily so that we don't get lost in this. Be it our digital self who is going to get feedbacks, reviews, comments from social channels. You might get your personal self get feedback from the society that you live in. In all these feedbacks and opinions and role models, and you might get lost. And that's where this story is very relevant, that your mind needs to still, and you should be able to take that journey back to yourself, so that you know who you are. Your pure self is always in touch with you, or you are in it, and then perform duties effectively. Not running away from duty, but staying in your present world and person, society, and circumstance. Perform your duties with more effectiveness by being true to yourself and being in yourself. That's when the magic happens. The person that is you, the uniqueness about you, that comes out when you're grounded within yourself and nourished from within. So this story of Chudala and Shikhidwaja is very much relevant in our society. The people who are suffering digitally or in real world, this story is applicable. So I gift this story to all my friends who can relate to this topic and who is able to think about this concept and try to apply and reap the benefits from this story. Thank you.